We've all thought about it. What if we could live somewhere else? What would life be like? What about the realities of stuff like the costs, the logistics? In this video, we want to give you a feel for what real life would be like living here in Bali. We'll share the truth, the pros and the cons with you today, and at the end of the video, we'll also share a little bit of information about how you can try living here for a longer bit yourselves. It's been a year in Bali for us already. One of the top concerns of living somewhere new is probably where you will call home. The reality is that accommodation options here in Bali are plentiful and they cater to almost every budget and taste. We've had friends who stay in a basic room with aircon in a guest house for just $7 a night. On the other end of the scale, you got luxury villas and resorts with the ocean view going for up to $1,500 a night. What I really love here in Bali is that there isn't a skyscraper environment like in Singapore or New York. Pretty much every living situation here is kind of like ground level to third floor maximum usually. So there's no high-rise living, which I guess if you like that, it's a con. But for me, this is a huge plus. And the sky always looks wide and blue. You're never in an elevator. The traditional Bali style is living in a lovely ground level home or villa with pretty gardens and space. It's a really nice vibe. This is where we stay. Something like this, a simple little house with a garden, comes in usually between somewhere around $400 to $600 a month, depending on how long you commit for. So, across Bali, there are a few different areas with actually very different vibes to them. If you like the digital nomad crowd, lots of shopping, a very hip, happening, busy feel, then probably Canggu is your jam. And right next to that, geographically, will be Seminyak, which is slightly more upscale and more mature, definitely. The spiritual, the yogis, the arts and craftsmen, the poets, they will find their home up in Ubud, in the jungles of central Bali. And probably the dedicated surfers or the slightly more mature, more chill crowd, they usually will make their way down to South Bali, somewhere in Uluwatu or Jimbaran. Families will probably like the quiet, peaceful, child-friendly vibes of Sanur and Nusa Dua. Traffic is usually the most frequent complaint people have about living in Bali. It's definitely true that it's a nightmare in certain densely populated areas like Denpasar, Canggu, Kuta. But then again, if, like us, you only venture into those areas occasionally and at non-peak hours, then it's not really a huge problem. It's been a year, and we've only truly been caught in traffic jams just a handful of times. So it's also a question of your lifestyle, not just that the traffic here is just a deadlock nightmare. Actually, because we live in a far less densely populated, fairly quiet area, I find driving here can be very enjoyable because the drivers here are generally very patient, very courteous, very lovable local people. For example, when it's not a heavy traffic situation, it's actually really quiet. Nobody horns, they give way to each other. We really like this state of mind. The flip side to this is, of course, many neighborhoods still only have very tiny little roads, which can be challenging when you, on the scooter, meet other drivers in cars and the cars just kind of really squeeze the bikes to the side. It really trains out your scooter skills. Logistics-wise, the big con here is that if you're living here long-term, to be truly comfortable and independent, you must be able to drive yourself around, either in a scooter or a car. So you really want to get your license before coming to Bali. Definitely take some motorbike lessons if you're on a smaller budget. Which brings us to the question of scooter or cars. The wonderful thing about this is that it's all affordable. On a low budget, no problem. Rent a scooter and pay month to month, or just buy your own. Ours, a brand new NMAX, cost just about $2,100 when we bought it. Personally, I love going around on the bike. It's cheap, it's quick, it's easy, it's fast. I feel close to the world around me. If you can afford it and you prefer the comforts and protection of a car, that's also very affordable, in the tens of thousands of US dollars, which is very cheap compared to places like my home country, Singapore. But if your life tracks across the hot zone areas of Bali often, you might have to factor in additional time for being caught in the occasional traffic jam here and there. So it's just a matter of preference, really. Right, so petrol for transportation is very affordable here, especially it's only about 8,000 rupiah per liter, which is about 50 cents US. It's a steal, especially in current times. And check it out, right behind me. Like at Warungs, where they're doing the ad hoc, petrol top up for you, it's only just 15,000 rupiah per liter. The next big thing, which we get loads of questions about on the channel is, of course, how's the internet connectivity? Well, in answer to that, it's really a matter of you getting what you pay for. Connectivity-wise, good internet is widely and quite easily accessible if you shell out the bucks for it. There's also the proliferation of co-working spaces and cafes like this one, which usually provide high-speed connections to facilitate online work. Worst comes to worst, there's always the 4G on your SIM card as a last resort backup. The overall caveat to this situation is that in the past year, I think there was like twice where we did experience some kind of general disruption to connectivity due to wider issues like a cable breakdown or something. But that's definitely more the aberration, not the norm. And the most important factor is great value for money here. Cost of living is generally very affordable, every budget is catered to, and lots of options to suit most tastes. Generally, the things here you need for life, from toothpaste to laundry detergents, they'll be about the same or slightly cheaper than back at home. The con is that you'll probably have to adapt to local brand versions of the stuff here, and perhaps there may be less options compared to back home, but they do have everything most people need. If not, there's always fallback options like online shopping through Shopee or Tokopedia. Whilst life in general can be extremely affordable here, for example, it's probably going to be cheaper overall if you eat out all the time at the many different types of warungs and cafes available here compared to shopping at a grocery store and buying stuff for cooking at home. The thing about living here permanently versus touristing is that invariably you're going to be missing stuff from back home, whether it's different types of cheese for lots of people or good big cuts of Australian beef, for example. For me, things like Chinese preserved olives. I love having this at home with plain rice porridge when I'm a little down. The good news is that it's mostly easily available here at large grocery stores like Pepito. The con? You generally pay a premium for them because they're mostly import goods. But at least they're available, which I am very grateful for. And I would say still very reasonably priced. Which brings us to the food scene here, which is totally amazing. Whether it's the local food scene or Western style options, either way choices are dazzling. There's something for everyone at every budget. It can get really cheap. It's just generally awesome, especially the local cuisine and the spices, just amazing. It's so creative what they make from simple natural ingredients like banana, tapioca, coconut, etc. And there's just so much to explore and discover that you'll be a very happy foodie for a long time. On the flip side, a lot of it is so good but so fatty, especially the Indonesian street food which we love, like gorengan and terang bulan. I mean, we can't get enough of it, but we have to watch the cholesterol and the calories while we're having fun savoring all this stuff. In terms of day-to-day fitness activities, Bali is famous for surfing. A lot of people do that here. And there's also CrossFit, gyms, skate parks, and these days cycling is very popular. There is also a kitesurf scene and a dive scene happening in Sanur. But if you live in places like New York or Singapore and you're used to going out running in some gigantic park nearby where you live, or using those public workout stations, basketball courts or the like in the public areas of many cities across the world, then you should probably know that this isn't really the way Bali has done its urban planning. And if an accident befalls you during the surf, like it did me, I needed 13 stitches to my head from someone's surfboard that went flying in a big wave, then you'll probably need medical care. And the good news is that for most everyday uncomplicated medical issues and problems, and also dental, Bali provides very well for you. There's a lot of clinics and pharmacies at every other corner. Many of them are 24 hours. They're nicely kitted out. They speak English. They're used to catering for foreigners. If you just need medicine for a cold or stitches for a gash or something, it's all good and it probably won't cost very much. For me, all in all, to receive professional medical care at a modern hospital here in Bali where they inspected and cleaned up my head wounds, gave me a tetanus shot and stitched me back up very professionally. It cost about 250 US dollars, which I think is very reasonable. The cons, of course, is that for more complicated medical treatment or in the event of a really bad accident, your medical bills can run up to astronomical amounts here in Bali. So you really want to be covered by travel and medical insurance whilst you're here. That can itself be quite expensive, but not as expensive as it can get if something bad does happen. So just get one for your peace of mind. We use Safety Wing's Nomad Health Insurance ourselves. The catch is that there is a $250 deductible, but otherwise it's very affordable for coverage of up to 250,000 US dollars. One of the biggest bonuses about living here in Bali is getting to know the local people and how they are. For us, our Balinese neighbors and friends are some of the biggest inspirations of living here in Bali. They're religious and it affects their outlook on life. They're not suffering anxiety over much. They're generally happy people, appreciative of their blessings. They live harmoniously with their environment. They take care of themselves and their community, even the dogs in their neighborhood. It's been very educational and it just makes you reflect. I guess if there has to be a flip side to this, then it's the one thing about how everyone works on Bali time and that can really try your patience if you happen to be in a hurry. But again, this is something that we've just come to accept and gotten used to. Another big plus is that here you have all sorts of opportunities every day to meet other people from other countries and different walks of life. There's this wonderfully dynamic atmosphere here that encourages openness and connection between people. So there is a good chance to be exposed to a huge variety of people whilst you live here and just expand your horizons generally, make friends, broaden your social circle, etc. The downside to this, though, is that here most people tend to be somewhat transient at least, so expectations for long-lasting relationships can be challenged quite often. By this point in the video, we hope you've got a much better idea about the realities of being on the ground here in Bali as a somewhat longer-term visitor. One of the realities of life here in Bali as a non-Indonesian citizen is that you're going to be needing a visa to stay here. Now, Bali has granted a 30-day visa-free period to many nationalities. So if you're only staying less than 30 days, you don't need to pay for a visa at all. But do note that if you would like to stay for a period of between 30 to 60 days, then what you want to do upon arriving at the Bali airport is to pay for a visa on arrival that costs 35 US dollars. And about 2 weeks into your stay, you will then want to head over to any visa agency. There's many of these everywhere. And they can help you extend your visa from 30 to 60 days, and that will cost you generally another $55. If you want to stay for a period of up to 6 months in Bali for either tourism or business purposes, then you'll have to look at applying for a B211 visa, which is valid for 60 days initially but can be extended twice, for 60 days each time, totaling up to 180 days. Ever since the pandemic situation occurred, Bali authorities have also allowed for onshore applications of these B211 visas. So even if your original B211 visa is coming up to expiry, should you wish to stay on further, while still in Bali, you can apply for a new B211 visa without having to leave. Now that we've given you the realistic lowdown of day-to-day life here in Bali, if you loved what you saw in this episode, you're probably wondering how you can move here. We're planning another video on how to move to Bali or any other similar places in Thailand or wherever you may be thinking of. So if that topic is interesting to you, do subscribe and stay tuned. Hit that like button if you liked the video, and I guess we'll see you next Saturday.